Moving forward today with angles and triangles, this is lesson number 5. So today we are going to look at congruent triangles. So congruent triangles just means equal triangles. Equal triangles are triangles that have the same shape and they have the same size. It means all of their corresponding parts, that means all of their sides and all of their angles are congruent. Everything about congruent triangles, everything means that everything is congruent. Every part of congruent triangles are equal to each other. All right, so a congruency statement. Now, a congruency statement is written when we have two triangles that are congruent to each other. So let me show you how I know that these two triangles are congruent to each other. Do you see, based on one arc and one arc, that angle A is congruent to angle D? Those two angles go together. Do you also see that B has 2 marks and E has 2 marks? That means that angle B is congruent to angle E. And do you see how C and F both have 3 arcs? That means that angle C is congruent to angle F. So I have 3 sets of angles and they are congruent to each other in both of these triangles. Also, do you see how AB has 1 tick mark? Side AB goes with side DE. They're congruent. 2 lines. So side BC is congruent to side EF. And then 3 lines. So side AC goes with side DF. So these two triangles are congruent to each other, and my congruency statement is this. It is a statement that triangle ABC, this one, is congruent to triangle DEF, this one. So this is the congruency statement. Now, I need to point out more things to you. When you write a congruency statement, the letter order matters. You have to get your letters in the correct order. So remember how I did the arcs and I said that A and D go together? Watch what happens. A is the first letter in the triangle. D is the first letter in the triangle. Those two angles have to match up with one another. And then I said that B and E was the same. Look at B is the middle letter, E is the middle letter. Okay, they have to go in the same order. The letter order matters. C and F went with each other. Look at that, third letter, C and F. And then I said that AB and DE went together. Look at AB is the first 2 letters, DE is the first 2 letters. Okay, the order matters, it has to match up. BC, those were the last 2 letters, goes with EF because those are the last 2 letters. AC is first and last letter, DF is first and last letter. So anytime you write a congruency statement, you have to make sure that you are matching up angles and sides correctly and putting your letters into the correct order. All right, CPCTC. This is an abbreviation. When I was in high school, my teacher would not allow us to abbreviate anything. We had to write it out over and over and over again. What does CPCTC stand for? This is what it stands for. C, corresponding. P, parts. So corresponding parts are the parts that go together, like A and D go together, and B and E go together. Those would be corresponding parts. Corresponding parts of C, congruent. T, we're talking about triangles. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. If your triangles are congruent, then so are their parts. If the parts are congruent, so are the triangles. If we know that two triangles are congruent, then we know that every pair of corresponding parts, which means sides and angles, then they are congruent. So in number 1, it says list all of the congruent angles and sides and give the congruency, given the congruency statement. So we have our congruency statement right here. It says that triangle JKL is congruent to triangle PQR. Based on that statement, I can now say that angle J, first letter, is congruent to angle P, first letter. Middle letter, angle K, is congruent to middle letter, angle Q. Last letter, angle L, is congruent to, last letter, angle R. All you gotta do is just match up the letters, sides. All right, let's go first two. JK is congruent to, first two, PQ. Last two. KL is congruent to QR. First and last, JL, is congruent to first and last, PR. Write another valid congruency statement. Well, that just means switch up the letters. So let's say instead of doing JKL, I want to do LKJ. So if I switch the order of the first triangle and I went backwards, LKJ, that means I have to do the exact same thing and go backwards, RQP. So that way L and R still match up, and K and Q still match up, and J and P still match up. Go ahead, pause my video, and try to do number 2 on your own. List the angles, the sides, and then write a different congruency statement. All right, so hopefully you stopped the video and tried it. Did you get angle W congruent to angle E? Angle X congruent to angle F? Angle Y congruent to angle G? And then WX congruent to EF? XY congruent to FG? WY congruent to EG. And then you needed to write a different congruency statement. Maybe you went backwards. Maybe you did something a little bit different. Maybe you did X, W, Y. So I have to go in the same order. X was in the middle, so that means F. And then I went to W, which was first, so that's E. And then Y is still G. Maybe you did X, Y, W. If you did X, Y, W, then you'd have to do F, G, E. So you have to look at your own statement and make sure that your letters are still matching up. You have to make sure that you did everything in the correct order. All right, number 3 says, given that triangle KPM is congruent to triangle AYC, complete each of the following statements. So anytime they give me a congruency statement like this, I like to label my diagram. Okay, it's going to be very important for you in geometry to make sure that you are labeling your diagram. So K is going to go with A. So I'm going to mark that with 1 arc. Next letter P. So I'm going to mark that with 2. Goes with Y. And then M is going to get 3, 1, 2, 3 arcs, and C is going to get 1, 2, 3 arcs. And then I'm going to label my sides. So KP, that's this one, goes with AY, which is that one. PM, I'm going to put 2 lines, goes with YC, 2 lines. And then first, last KM, 1, 2, 3, is going to go with AC, 1, 2, 3. All right, so get used to labeling your diagrams. It'll make your eyes go straight to what you need to put together, and it makes it a little bit easier than to continue through a problem. All right, so KM. Here's KM, it's got 3 lines, so I go here, 3 lines. Or you can go back to your problem, your congruency statement, and go KM first last, so that's got to go AC first last. CY, that is last middle, so I have to put that with MP, last middle. PK, that's middle first, has to go with middle first, YA. Angle Y, that was 2 lines, it has to go with angle P, that's 2 lines, or you can do it here, middle letter, middle letter. Angle K, 1 line, went with angle A. Angle ACY, so they're giving you 3 letters and you have to do the same order. ACY, so they did first, last, middle. So now I have to come here and go first, last, middle. Just follow the order. You can't go wrong if you follow the order. Triangle MPK is congruent to triangle. All right, MPK, they went backwards. So I have to do CYA because I'm going backwards. Triangle YAC, so middle first last, so I'm going to go middle first last. Just keep looking at the order and keep doing things in the same orders. All right, on the back side, so we are given these 2 triangles are congruent to each other. Find the missing measure. So I'm going to do what I did before, and I am going to label the diagram. Some people say mark up the diagram, so I'm going to mark it up. So S, 1 arc, goes with B, 1 arc. T, 2 arcs, goes with F, 2 arcs. W, 1, 2, 3, goes with N, 1, 2, 3. ST right here goes with BF right here. And TW, 2 lines, goes with FN, 2 lines. And then SW, 1, 2, 3, goes with BN, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so by labeling my diagram, check this out. BN, which is right here, 3 lines, goes with 3 lines, and that is 9 centimeters. I know that they are congruent to each other, so I match up my 3 lines, so that makes both of these 9 centimeters long. All right, now I go to TW. So TW is right here, it's got 2 lines. So I find my 2 lines. So that means that both of those are congruent. They have to be 14 centimeters long. BF has 1 line, so I go to 1 line. That means that those 2 are congruent. They both have to be 17 centimeters. Angle W, 3 lines. I'm going to put with angle N, 3 lines. So that means that both of those 2 are 82-degree angles. Angle B, that's 1 arc, and angle S go together. So that means that both of those have to be 67-degree angles. And then angle F is right here, 2 lines, and angle T is 2, I don't have an angle measure. What do I know? I know that a triangle has 180 degrees in it. So if I subtract away the 82 and I subtract away the 67, what are we left with? Punch it into your calculator. We're left with 31 degrees. So that means that T and F both have to be 31 degrees. Number 5, pause me, work ahead, see if you can do it. Excuse me. See if you can do it on your own. All right, it says find each measure given that these two triangles are congruent. So G and X go together. H and Y, two lines, go together. J and Z go together. Okay, do you see how these two have one line? It means that those two sides are equal to each other. So HG, first two, has to go with XY because that has already been labeled with 1 mark. I have to label XY with 1 mark as well. And because HJ has already been labeled with 1 mark, HJ is the last 2 letters. So that means that YZ I also have to label with 1 mark. Okay, so if that's 27, then that's 27, and that's 27, and that's 27. That's easy, right? So what do I got? GJ is this one, 2 marks, is the same as XZ, 2 marks, so that has to be 18 feet. XY, already labeled it, is 27 feet. ZY, already labeled it, is 27 feet. Angle H goes with angle Y, so both of those have to be 38 degrees. Z and J have 3 lines. Uh-oh, I don't know anything about that yet. Let's move on. How about J? Wait a minute. Z and J, I don't know anything about yet. How do we figure this out? Actually, I only have 1 angle measure. Do you remember? This is an isosceles triangle. So what happens when I have 2 equal sides? 2 equal sides gives you 2 equal base angles. Those guys are equal to each other. All right, and then this is just flipped upside down. So these two here, they are equal to each other. So how do we figure out what those 2 missing angles are if they have to be the same? Can't we do 180, subtract away the 38, which leaves you with 142 degrees? So that means I have 142 degrees left over for these 2 angles. How do I split 142 equally? 142 divided by 2. That means that each of these angles has to be 71 degrees. So Z has to be 71 degrees, X needs to be 71, G and J, they both need to be 71 degrees. Okay, you can't forget about what we've learned. We have to keep going back to those definitions, okay, going back to those theorems and properties to be able to help us work through a problem. All right, so given triangle UVW and triangle TSR, find the values of X, Y, and Z. So what we need to do in order to work through these problems is to put the X's together, put the Y's together, and put the Z's together. So based on these triangles, UV, that is that one, has to match up with TS, which is that one. So right there, I know that those 2 things have to be equal to each other, and I can write that equation. So that means that 12x minus 7 has to be equal to 53. And now I'm adding 7 on both sides. And now I'm dividing both sides by 12. So 60 divided by 12 is 5. Well, there's one answer. All right, let's move on. VW is that one, has to go with SR. That's that one. So now I know that those two have to be equal to each other, and I can write that equation. So that's going to say that 57 has to be equal to 5y minus 33. And then I'm adding 33 on both sides. That puts me at 90. And then I'm dividing both sides by 5. 90 divided by 5 is 18. Here's the second answer. All right, check it out. UW, first and last. That one has to go with TR, first and last. And now I've got that equation to write. 3z plus 14 has to be equal to 50. And now I'm subtracting 14 on both sides. And then I'm dividing by 3 on both sides. 36 divided by 3 is 12. There it is. Match up your sides. That writes an equation, and then you can solve that equation. All right, let's take a look at number 7. It says, given these two triangles are congruent to each other, find x, y's, and z's. Okay, so it looks like these are all angles. So P matches up with C. There's the equation. They are equal to each other. So 36 has to equal 4z minus 32. Now I'm adding 32 on both sides. And now I'm dividing both sides by 4. 68 divided by 4. I'm going to get 17 for z. All right, let's do the next one. So H is the middle letter. H has to go with N. There's your next equation. Those two things equal each other. So we write that 6x minus 29 is equal to 115. Now I'm adding 29 on both sides. What's that, 144? And then dividing both sides by 6. 144 divided by 6 is 24. And then last letter, angle S, has to go with angle F. And now I write my equation, but I don't know what that angle measure is. Can I figure it out? I sure can, because I know that this one is 36. These two were together, so actually this one is 115 degrees. So can't I do 180 minus the 36 minus the 115, and I get 29 degrees. That means this angle right there is a 29-degree angle. Now I can write my equation. So 29 is equal to 3y minus 1, adding 1 on both sides, and then dividing by 3 on both sides. So y is equal to 10. All right, on these last two, what do you notice? They don't have diagrams. What should you do if you don't have a diagram? You should draw yourself a diagram. So I'm going to draw two congruent triangles, and I'm going to label them the exact same way. So let's say I'm going to call that D, E, and F. So I want to label the same way. This is going to be J, K, and L. It tells me that DE is 18. EF is 23. DF is 9x minus 23. These are side lengths. JL is 7x minus 11. JK is 3y, that's a minus 21. Find the values of x and y. So I drew my triangles the same. I labeled them in the same order, and then I filled in, or I labeled all of my pieces. Guys, you can't do this problem without drawing your triangle. You need to physically see who is equal to who. So now I know, because I drew these triangles the exact same way, I know that this one and this one are the same. And I know this one and this one are the same because I drew them that way. And then I know that this one and this one are the same, or equal to. All right, so looking at these first lines here, can I write an equation? Sure can. What's that going to be? 9x minus 23 is equal to 7x minus 11. I've got x's on both sides. I'm going to be subtracting 7x, which is going to give me 2x. Now I'm adding 23. Negative 11, be careful, plus 23 is a positive 12. And then dividing both sides by 2. And now I can put these two together and I can write an equation. This says that 18 has to be equal to 3y minus 21. Adding 21 on both sides, dividing both sides by 3. There it is. So do this last one on your own. Pause me, draw the diagrams the exact same way, label the diagrams, and then go ahead and write your equations. All right, so I have two congruent triangles. I'm going to label them the same way. How about QRS? And this is going to be MNP. QR is right here. That's 11. QS is 15. MP is 2x plus 1. Angle S is 84 degrees. Angle R is 32 degrees. Angle M is 17y minus 4 degrees. All right, and we need to find the values of x and y. Well, since I drew these the exact same way, I know that these two sides are equal to each other. So let's write that equation. That's going to be 15 equal to 2x plus 1, subtracting 1 on both sides, and then dividing by 2. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. All right. Y is in an angle, so I have to figure out what angle that is. I know that angle M and angle Q have to be equal to each other, right? It's the first letters, and I drew my triangle specifically that way, but I don't know what Q is. Can we figure out what Q is? Sure can, because I know these two angles. So how many degrees in a triangle? We got 180, minus 84, minus 32, and that gives you 64 degrees. So now I can write my equation. 64 degrees is going to be equal to 17y minus 4. And then adding 4, and then dividing by 17. So 4 is equal to y. There it is. Go get your practice, and let me know tomorrow if you have questions.